Hi, everybody. Hi, Franklin, Fritz, Jessica. We'll be starting in a few minutes. Hi, Rolando.
How you doing, Yvonne?
Very well. These Zoom meetings make me a little nervous, but other than that, I'm fine.
Good.
How about yourself?
No complaints. As good as possible.
That's it. That's all we could do right now.
Exactly.
But thank you for joining us.
No, thank you.
I know everybody has a lot to do. I don't know who keeps referring to this time as a pause. For us, it's been like turbo.
Yep.
So there is no pause.
Exactly.
So we're waiting for some of our committee
Join the meeting.
members to join us, and Christina may jump on a little bit later because she's at a city commission virtual meeting on homelessness right now. So. Hi, Tad.
Hi.
And Aaron. So just so everybody knows, we're already live streaming on Facebook. We checked and we're on. So we will be monitoring that as well for public comment.
I think Christina might still be on the commission call now.
She is. So she may have to jump in, but Ivory's going to take over.
I got a Coke. I'll be right back. Hmm.
Hi, Richard. Hi, Richard.
Hey, how's it going?
How are you? We're just waiting for a few more of our committee members to jump on.
Okay. That's just working.
Hi, everybody.
Hi, Alicia.
Hey.
Hey.
We're just waiting on a couple more committee members. We can start.
Okay. Ivory, are you really outside, you lucky man, you?
I wish I was, but I am in the office right now. But you know, I'm trying to get the natural lighting effect and
A beautiful
the
job.
vibe.
You had me. You totally had me. I said, this man is on the park. I love
living
it.
my best life, right?
Yeah, totally. Proper social distancing. Nobody's around. You got it all going on. You got the park to yourself. I thought, wow, all
Yes.
about it.
I'm really teasing myself because I see this background, but I'm looking right at a wall. So
So are you in the office or are you working from home?
I am. I'm in the office.
That's a beautiful thing.
It is.
So guys, I have sent out a survey to my company and I'm pushing for 100 results back. I think I've gotten probably, last I checked, I had 40. I think I'm probably up to 50. And part of that was obviously just internally to see what the appetite was for my agents to come back to work and how they wanted to come to work and how they felt comfortable. But I also expanded it and asked some questions about restaurants, theaters, you know, other stuff, because I figured that that might be useful information when we're in these kinds of situations to give to the commissioner and other people who are empowered to open our city back up for business. I can't hear you. Am I the only one talking here? Can
No,
you
we
hear me?
can hear you. We can
Okay.
hear
All right, perfect. So I don't know if anybody's interested in those results, if you would like me to send them to you, or
Yes,
if I should
please.
send them. Okay,
It's
so
interesting.
I'm
I mean, what is the general consensus amongst your employees?
people definitely want to come back to work, and I haven't looked at the breakdown because I actually got the results yesterday, and I wanted to wait till we had more, because at that point I had 40 people, and so I was pushing out to get more responses back yesterday. So I will have them today. By the end of the day, I can send it back to you. But it was mixed bag. People were more concerned about going back to restaurants. The thing they were least in a hurry to go back to were theaters. So I think the closed environments, I think, are a barrier. But I think, you know, the outdoor seating and the stuff where there's air moving around, I think seem to be better. But what I'll do is I'll get that data together and actually give it to you. I don't know why this is being printed on the bottom of my screen, every word I'm saying. Is that a function you guys have?
We are, because of the ordinance from the governor, or the orders from the governor, we have to have closed captioning on our meetings now. So we are, right now we are live on Facebook, and we're closed captioning. All of that.
Hey, Alicia,
Yes.
it's Tad. You know,
Hey,
if you're
Tad.
interested, hi.
Hi.
Good to see you, by the way. If you're interested, the Herald is going to be doing a web panel on that very topic. They just put out a very similar survey throughout the city of Miami and Miami-Dade County on the appetite for getting back to work, how we open up, a lot of the things that we're all discussing as part of the recovery plan. I know the DDA did something similar with a focus on small business. So depending on you know, the timing of you getting your results, if you wanted to share it with Jane, I think she would love to
Listen,
have you. I know you're
100%.
on a panel, but you know,
Yeah,
it's up to you.
listen, 100%. I am trying to get out there as much as I can.
Good.
In interest of full disclosure, I'm a firm believer we need to open our city. And I want to qualify that by saying not being a crazy person and, you know, running around hugging strangers. But I do think we need to get back to the business of doing business. And I'm not going to be quiet about it, as you know, I'm always so quiet. So
Good.
so yes, I would love to be on the panel, on any panel that can exchange meaningful information to help us stop hiding and get out and start, you know, re-engaging.
Right.
So yeah, and what I'll do, Tad, is when I get all that stuff together, I will reach out to you, and maybe we can talk about it a few minutes. And I don't know what questions Jane had asked. I don't know how much overlap there is on the questions, but that might be helpful too. We can, you know, kind of sum my small sample with her larger sample, I'm sure.
Right. And I think the DDA is going to have a sample too. So yeah, that would be great. I think she'd love to have you.
Yeah.
By the way, is Suzanne on the call yet?
Suzanne
Yep.
is. The only one that we're missing is Danette, but if you'd like, we can begin, Mr. Chair.
Sorry, I'm late. I had another board meeting that ran over.
Okay.
Yeah, and I have one that's going to start at 2, so I have to jump off a few minutes before because I'm a very active participant in that.
Okay, so I'm just going to start
Yeah.
with the intro. Good morning and welcome to Miami DDA's newly formed COVID Recovery Committee virtual meeting. My name is Yvonne De La Vega, Board Secretary for the Miami DDA, and I will be serving as a moderator along with Ivory Boston and Elvira Mannon from our Miami DDA team. Some important information before we begin. Board and committee members are reminded not to communicate with other board members via chat, message, or phone, as it is a violation of the Florida Sunshine Law. All conversation is to happen within this meeting that is being recorded. We encourage board and committee members and all participants to use the chat feature for any questions and/or comments you may have during the discussion. Board and committee members, Miami DDA Executive Director, City of Miami Deputy Attorney, and our presenters will be on video with the microphones open. Please note that if you mute yourself, you may need to request that the meeting host reopen the microphone via chat. You may not be able to unmute yourself. Members of the public will be able to view this digital meeting fully, but microphone and webcam features will be disabled unless necessary. This meeting will be live streamed on Miami DDA's Facebook page and later posted on Twitter and YouTube platforms. Members of the public may pre-record their questions or comments by dialing 305-379-6570 or you may send your questions and or comments via email at delavega, D-E-L-A, V as in Victor, E-G-A, at miamidda.com. Public comments received via email or phone message will be read during the meeting and will become a part of the public record. There will be a public comments section after each discussion item where questions received via chat, email, or phone message will be read and appropriate parties will have the opportunity to respond. The chat button is located at the bottom center of the Zoom screen. Closed captioning has also been made available for this meeting. To activate closed captioning, please press the CC button located at the bottom of the Zoom screen to the right of the share screen and record buttons. Members of the public who are dialing in and will not be able to use the chat feature, but you may also email your questions to delavega@miamidda.com or record your comments at 305-379-6570. Please remember your phone will be muted for the duration of the meeting. With that, Miami DDA COVID Recovery Committee Chairman, Richard Leidacker, the floor is yours so that we can begin with roll call, which actually we're writing down everybody, so I don't think we actually have to take a roll call. It just makes it a little more difficult. So Richard?
Yeah, I'll only just say a couple of things, and we've all worked, most of us have all worked together before. I just want to put our time into this. Somehow we're going to need to get everybody back on their feet. And I think we've talked about, I think in the last meeting we had yesterday or the day before, was they're going to come out and break out our coming two sections. One, social distancing section, so that's phase 2, I think. And then the third, where all clear, everybody can do basically whatever they want. So, I guess my point always was that we ought to put concrete steps now before it happens, so we don't have to waste time when it does happen, so that we can plan once we go to open but social distancing, and 2, we can have a plan to execute once we go into all's clear time. And so that said, I thought we went through a PowerPoint with staff. Staff prepared to go through that PowerPoint edits that we had and get the committee's input.
Yes, absolutely.
Quick question, Ivory, before you start, just a quick question.
Yes.
The City of Miami mayor had a press conference 2 Mondays ago laying out or describing the city's strategy.
Yes.
But I haven't been able to find that published anywhere. Is that out?
It is, and actually it's reflected in this presentation.
Perfect, thank you.
Absolutely. So yeah, good afternoon, everybody. We're going to go through it. Christina had a couple parts to really touch to what we've done so far as an organization. I know not to insult anyone's intelligence, everyone can read here. So really just to ultimately summarize what we've been looking at, across the board, we've broken down what each individual group within a DDA has done to date. This isn't an exhaustive list, but it is really indicative of the direction we've been going in. For the business team, you can see that really their priorities have been to educate, assist, and connect the small businesses and even large businesses here in downtown Miami. So many of you on this call, if not everyone, already knows about our contribution and our involvement in SOB and FIU Chaplain School Hospitality Industry Relief Fund.
Stephanie, I don't know what kind of.
And to date, actually, we have been quite successful in terms of being able to amplify our investment versus the amount of money that restaurants in the downtown area in particular have received. Working with Gray Robinson to ensure that downtown residents and businesses are properly spoken for in terms of all needs that are going to be evolving based on this COVID-19 situation. Educating individuals of the small business and communities through Friday forums, and assisting businesses however possible to make sure they can apply for aid and actually understand what they're applying for as well. For enhanced services, the name of the game really is to maintain. While I'd love to say kind of that's it, that is actually a very large task. Being able to, in the face of what we're facing, go out there with their PPE and make sure that they are, the eyes, the ears, and the faces of downtown Miami while many of us are staying home and staying safe. For government relations, it has been to inform us in terms of what is the next steps, what is getting passed down at the city level, the county level, state and federal, because as we all know, there has been a lot going on and sometimes it has been contradictory in terms of understanding what really the laws are. For marketing, it has been really to, one, inform that sense of place for people that do live here, people that work here, people that want to eventually come back and vacation here, to see that this is a phenomenal downtown. And yes, we are taking precautions. We are social distancing. We are doing our part as best we can to make sure that we can, continue to flatten this curve. But we are still downtown Miami. We deserve to have that camaraderie and celebration. So, the highlight here, of course, is the David Guetta United at Home fundraising event. We saw that at Icon and Brickell. And I mean, that was something that was phenomenal. Across the world, across the country, people did see this and said, wow, this is something here, which is awesome. Launched a modified Miami DDA website. So anyone who goes to DDA.com, MiamiDDA.com rather, would see kind of everything is COVID-19, getting information out there to businesses, to residents, and to tourists in terms of where we are, where we're trying to be, and what any sort of pertinent laws and regulations would be as they deal with downtown Miami. Anybody who's been partying with the DDA on Friday evenings would have seen our Downtown Vibes event, where we have a local DJ just give us an hour of relaxation of good tunes that is open to dancing 6 feet apart, enjoying yourselves, and really just, for once being in the zone and being able to think about something other than the reality we all face. Planning, design, and transportation has been working to incorporate signage into the public domain so people do stick their 6 feet apart, staying as safe as possible out there in the public domain, and ensuring that people do just know what the rules are, right? So it's not just having them, but it's also educating and communicating them out. They've been collaborating with local partners as needed to expand non-vehicular right-of-way to have increased sidewalk usage during COVID-19. So being able to ultimately have people hopefully not just be on the sidewalks, because we all know a lot of people are out biking and running and walking and strolling, but being able to expand that wherever possible. Continuing to expand the downtown Miami bike network, and more recently assisting Orange Barrel Media's Smart City venture to put those smart city kiosks in the downtown area where it makes sense, right? So where the sidewalks permit it, where it makes sense, and where it won't be interrupting our businesses, our pedestrian activity, and our sightlines. And finally, for research and strategy, the ongoing RFQ for research, analytic, and strategy is out, making sure that we do have our next generation of research partners, maintaining metrics on layoffs and real estate COVID-19 impacts, and working on a short-term and long-term strategy for DDA and downtown Miami. Before I go into our next section, I'm gonna pause here. Yvonne, do we have any questions or comments?
I have one comment with the social distancing. I think
course.
that we have to start talking about people who have been self-quarantined together, and what are the rules for social distancing with those people? Because I think that there's being a message sent out there that anytime that two people are together walking down the street, they're violating, all kinds of norms and expectations and rules. So I think that whenever we talk about social distancing, I think we should reemphasize the fact that if you're sleeping with somebody, it's okay to walk down the street with them, right? So we should qualify family units as not needing to social distance, because we have to be very careful not to foster isolationism. So I would like to start changing that language and include that into all statements about social distancing, including that beautiful concert when there was, look, we can't assume that everybody that was on those balconies hugging each other were breaking the law or not following the requirements of proper social distancing. Most of those people were probably quarantining together. And there are family units that are more than two people. There's some families, 5, 6. If it's an extended family, it could be, children, grandparents, etc.
Absolutely, that's a great point.
And by the way, I want to just say this before I have to cut loose. You all have been doing an amazing job. The amount of work product that's been put out by the DDA, following reports, tracking the food that's been going out, letting everyone know where you can go get food, where you can go get tested, what the needs of the community have been, etc. It's just been very impressive. So I want to commend you all. I know that you guys have certainly not been taking any time off.
Thank you. I appreciate that, Alicia. And sorry I was a little late. I was on the city commission meeting on homelessness. And I thank you for the comment on the social distancing. I'll make sure that the city puts that on their radar when they're discussing rules for reopening, because that's a great point. So thanks.
Okay, thank you.
And just for the record, we have not received any calls, chat, or email questions yet. So
Okay.
Feel free to post and contact me.
So moving forward, we're going to get into really what are the parameters we have when it comes to reopening. So Gary, to your point, this is what the city has outlined in terms
So
of.
hang on one second. Sorry. So if we share this invite, anybody who wants to come in can come in with the sharing information that you gave me to log in?
Yes, it's a public meeting. So
Got
it
it.
is posted on our website and on the city calendar as well.
Okay. Got it. Thanks.
So what everybody's looking at right now is this is really as simplified a version as possible as we could put out there in terms of the city of Miami's reopening procedure. Today, the county clarified that they are going to be really deferring to the municipalities to decide when they want to open up. So this is, until further notice, what we're going to be looking at. So for those of you on this call that are looking at this, you can see that from start to finish, we are looking at 42 days between the three phases from start to finish. Now, if a case numbers were to tick up, so if we weren't to see a decrease over each 14-day periods, it actually would start back from the beginning. So again, this is contingent on the case numbers going down. And again, active case numbers, not necessarily deaths or any other metrics.
And I'll also mention the city hasn't decided on a date to implement phase 1 yet, but as soon as we know, you will know.
100%. So phase 1.
And what
like
kind
you
of
said,
feedback is that? What kind of feedback is the city getting from its citizens to continue this this process? Are they what are they doing to get input from us? And is it just because it's kind of very nebulous and very disheartening that we can be restarting this for God knows how long, where a lot of other cities are making different decisions. So how's that working?
So they've created several different committees. The county has two where they're bringing expertise from everything from construction and developer input. I was on a call last week on that, talking about moving forward, how that's all going to work. And there was over, I want to say 50 experts on that call. And then Richard had mentioned one of his staff members is on the recovery task force as well, talking about budgetary issues. I'm also on an internal working group that the city has and on those calls too. So they've created different committees to kind of deal with these different buckets. The county updated their order and the county's going to do what they're going to do. But the way that the orders go down, the cities can do and implement things, at their will. So once the county opens up, whatever's next, the city has the ability to do that. They just have to decide when that is. And that hasn't been determined yet, unfortunately.
Yeah, I'm clear on that. I'm just distressed at the speed in which this is all progressing.
Yeah, I hear you. We all are. And I've expressed that to them, and they've asked us for data, research and stuff like that we've been providing to give them kind of metrics, what's happening in downtown. But that's all I can offer right now. As soon as I know more, their calls are usually on Fridays. So tomorrow I should know a little bit more, and we'll share as much as I know when it's coming with everybody.
And are those calls public as well, Christina?
No, those are internal calls. They're not public. You have to be invited.
Right. Okay.
But we do have somebody at those task force, right?
Yes, I'm on one, and then you mentioned one of your staff members was on one.
One of my partners. But here's the thing.
Sorry.
If we go run around and do all this stuff that we're trying to do to get everything moving in the city, I don't want our legs cut up because they decided to slice some part of their budget that's contrary to what we're doing. So I think somebody at staff level needs to be a part of that. So
Yeah, that's me.
Okay.
I'm
right.
taking that on myself.
All right. Perfect.
Absolutely. So again, what you can see is within phase 1, non-essential businesses can open back up. But again, I really do say that sparingly because it would be at 25% capacity. Now, there is not any sort of definition in the order yet in terms of what that capacity means, if it's only indoors, if you can expand to outdoors. But other cities throughout our state have taken it to mean that it's just indoors. So there has been concepts of expanding your place of doing business, whether it is a restaurant to the sidewalk or the street, a boutique outside into the public right away as well. And we'll get into that in a little bit. But again, this is 25% capacity interpreted as indoor by most other municipalities in the state so far.
is that in terms of code capacity per square foot as defined in the code?
Yeah, yes, it is.
Thank you.
Of course. So, yes.
And so public spaces, and by the way, what are they doing to people that are saying, I've had it, I'm opening, and if you want to come? What's the downstroke to doing that?
So
Other than that, you might save your business.
they've had code compliance go out and basically shut people down.
So
And like
they're
in downtown
actively
they're doing the rounds, both police, code compliance are doing rounds in downtown specifically. And if they see a business opening and receiving clients, they'll go in there and shut them down.
And are they fining them, or are they just shutting them down?
They're not fining them. It's more like a verbal warning. And then they follow up to make sure that they've closed. And education really, because certain companies don't realize, we had just as an example, a bead company that's selling online, right?
Mm-hmm.
So there was some confusion. Could they be open? Could they not? They can be open if it's just the owner in there, but if they have people coming in there to buy beads, no. So stuff like that's being clarified for businesses downtown.
I think this highlights the importance of Alicia's point to open streets to allow restaurants
Yes.
to have space there. We know we have at least a 2-week window to figure that out as quickly as possible.
Yeah, thank you, Gary. I was going to mention that when we got further into it, but part of the reso that was approved by the board meeting just a couple weeks ago was that point that Alicia brought up about cafes and giving them space. And I mentioned that on the task force call with the city, and they really like that, and they're open to considering that. It would require legislation. So I have staff preparing a recommendation for executive committee for us to be able to have a plan and recommended legislation to make that happen. That way we can push it through as quickly as possible. But they really like that idea, and they were open to considering it.
Great. And Christina, are we tracking how many people are getting closed?
Yeah, we're going to be doing that. So that's part of the ask that the city gave us last Friday. They want to know once things are reopened, how many are open and closed, what businesses remain open and closed, and we'll be helping them get that data.
I think that's great, but I want to know how many businesses are opening now in spite of what our mayor and our city officials are saying and are being forcefully closed by our city. I think that's important intel, because at some point people are going to start snapping and there's going to be anarchy and chaos. So I think we have to monitor how that level of impatience for reopening is occurring. And I think it's a valuable information for the city also, because sometimes the cure is worse than the disease,
Yeah. We have data on who's been opened over the last 5 weeks, right, guys? Ivory and Julia, Kevin's team, they've been canvassing the district around restaurants and things like that around essential business. But we can look into it further. I hear you.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to, honestly, I don't want to police people. I want to provide the city with data, letting them know, hey guys, last week it was 5, this week it's 10, next week it may be 50. At some point, people are going to say, screw you, and you're going to either have to arrest them or let them function.
Right. And the ambassador,
that's not a bad word.
Yeah.
They're going to say, forget it, I'm not going to cooperate.
Yeah. The ambassador team also helps with that, and they track it in an app, so we can tweak that and provide that.
Okay.
Thank you. I hear you when you're saying that policing word, kind of, putting it out there then can cause the flip side. So, but we can look at all of that.
But look, we don't have to give them the names of the businesses, but we have to, I think we should tell them, it went from 5 to 10 to 50 to 100, or it may go from 10 to 2 to 0. You never know which way people are going to go. But I think that is important data.
Just to interrupt, I'm sorry for a second, Joseph can address a couple of the questions that have been raised. So Joseph from Gray Robinson, our lobbying team.
Hey, good afternoon, everybody. Talking to you from my office in downtown, having ordered lunch from a downtown restaurant.
Go, Joseph.
Yeah. Listen, I want to just touch on 2 items. One is, Alicia, you had mentioned, look, not everybody holding hands or walking down is breaking the law. And I had put it in the chat, the county, for the first time we've seen verbiage of this kind, defines family as those are, staying in the same home. We can expand that definition as it applies to the city, but what I'm about to illustrate is some of the concern that we have. Within the DDA, we're subject to state, county, and city regulations. And you're seeing the state lower the floor and leaving it up to the local governments. I expect Governor DeSantis by mid-May to shift the rest of the state to phase 2. And you're starting to see a lot of calls from Palm Beach Mayor Kerner and Dade County Mayor Jimenez to start putting us into phase 1 and allow us to police ourselves. But also, as we've seen with parks and stuff, the city has a high, and I'm not making a judgment call or determination, but the city still has more stringent regulations on some of the openings the county has done, and that could continue when we see commercial activity. You might see, for example, some restaurants that maybe have shifting operations to a county location rather than the one that's within the city if they're under more stringent regulations. You know, as far as violation of the executive order, violation of an executive order is a second-degree misdemeanor, punishable by, you can arrest somebody, you can fine them. The way these things happen is there's support from the federal government, it's dictated from the state government, but it's enforced by the local government. So you've seen over in Tampa, they have arrested some business owners and some pastors. I have not seen any of that in South Florida. So the violation is there. Those businesses that are open right now are opening themselves to criminal liability, but the enforcement is completely within the city and the county code enforcement and law enforcement.
Right. It's just a lot of authority that's being abdicated or rightfully in the hands of elected officials that are just under a titanic challenge here, you know?
So yeah, so
Okay,
in front of you.
thank you, Joseph.
Okay.
That was helpful. But as I said, the city's been policing it, but not arresting and fining people. So although they haven't done that. I just wanted to make that clear. But we can keep going. Go ahead, Irene.
Absolutely. And I mean, just, you know,
Authority that's being abdicated or.
but yeah, so just, I mean, in terms of these phases, I have been doing research in terms of what do these various percent capacities mean. And you can see for phase 1, non-essential businesses can be open at 25% capacity. And that is a difficult judgment call in terms of how would that really work. So, you know, that could be room for us to really involve ourselves there. If you're a restaurant, I mean, not a restaurant rather, because that would still be closed, but if you're a store and you say 25% capacity, what does that really mean? How can you manage that? And how do you deal with that if you go over it, right? So there are a lot of questions with this phase 1. Phase 2 being 50% capacity, including restaurant and dining rooms. So again, stores can be open more and restaurants now can be open once again. And phase 3, I really am considering more of a beta test to normalcy. So this one, non-essential businesses can be open at 100% capacity, but social distancing is required. So really the whole purpose of phase 3 is kind of to test scenario, what things would be like once we are back to as normal as we can be with social distancing. Some points to consider. So the city of Miami, in their own independent analysis, has projected that 25 to 30% of small to mid-sized businesses will be lost due to COVID-19, either during or after. Within the Miami DDA boundaries, we have lost at least 1,600 jobs. And again, that is within the DDA boundaries, not just downtown or our districts. And this does come from Florida WARN notices, so the state level. This says at least because many companies, of course, if you're the last one out, the last thing you're probably going to do is fill out a WARN notice. So again, we're looking at least 1,600. In online analysis, rather, when you look at LinkedIn and Indeed, Miami actually, as a urban area, has the highest rate of outward searches for middle management jobs in the United States right now. Now, to break it down a bit further, what that means is more people in Miami are searching for jobs without a location or looking for other locations to open or to find employment than anywhere else in the United States. So this is a significant figure here. You know, we all know it on this call. The strengths of downtown areas will be tested post-COVID-19. The concept of density, public transit, walkability. What does this really mean for a post-COVID-19 world? And that is something that is yet to be seen. And
I mean, isn't it impossible that there's more middle management looking for work in Miami than there is in Manhattan?
Well, no. So to clarify, what this means is that let's say if you take an average person in New York City and you take a person in Miami, what this really points to is that someone in Miami is not looking for a job in Miami. They're looking for jobs elsewhere. So this isn't looking at a per capita basis, but this is looking at, I live in one place, but I'm looking somewhere else for employment.
Yeah, no, that's how I read it. But just,
Yeah.
is that just as a result of COVID, or was that before COVID too?
So typically speaking, in the past, we have seen people trying to stay in place, at least within the Tri-County region. But now it's not even looking in Florida. It's not looking within kind of South Florida. It is just, I am blankly looking out there. And kind of a baseline is you look at our population size, rough areas, you do see similar numbers. It isn't the same. Now, again, there could be a number of different reasons for this. We do have, a number of colleges here, for example, and people may be looking back home. But this is an inaugural trend that we're seeing, and I'm going to track it. So I'll update everyone accordingly to see kind of what happens as we start to recover more. Is this still the case? Or is this something that reverses itself?
And we have to be really careful with that statistic, because it just doesn't make any organic sense that there would be more people trying to move out of downtown Miami than out of Manhattan, all things being equal, because of COVID. That just doesn't make any sense at all. So I think that without a lot of explanation, what you just said sounds like that. So I would hold that information very close to the cuff until we can put a lot of explanation around it.
Absolutely. And like I said, this really is an inaugural statistic. It might hold weight and might ultimately be something that doesn't mean anything. And you're spot on. So this wouldn't be something that gets publicized out until it is something that's flushed out. So thank you for that.
Well, I mean, it just has been, I guess, right? Because it's a public meeting. So let's be careful, because it's a very confusing and negative stat on its own.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
and I would say we're probably going to see a lot of that all over, like people wanting just to move for, like what you're mentioning in Manhattan and whatnot. So let's just take that off, because it's fluid.
Absolutely. So the last point here is just in terms of tourism in Miami. So Carnival Cruise Lines, as of right now, is planning to resume limited cruises on August 1st, and hotels are aiming for a post-Memorial Day reopening. So again, that is up in the air, but that is the figure we're getting right now from that industry.
And I want to just pause right there and give the opportunity. I know that the GMCVB, I can't see everybody that's on here, but Rolando from the GMCVB was going to be on, and I don't know if you want to hear from them about what they're working on or their plans, or the Hotel Association. But I just wanted to open that up if they wanted to mention anything.
Yeah, hi, this is Rolando. I'll defer to the chair if you'd like me to share a few comments now, or perhaps a little further along the agenda. We're at your disposal.
I think now seems appropriate, if that's okay. Just 30,000 foot, broad strokes.
Sure.
In particular, one thing you all were doing was a sort of a coronavirus modified Miami Spice to get people into the businesses down. At least that's what I was told. Maybe is that true? And maybe your plans for that. When do you plan on that starting?
Sure. Yeah, I mean, we've like the DDA, and number one, I'd like to recognize Christina and Kim and the team. It's been an amazing partnership before coronavirus, and things like crises bring partners even closer together. So we are intimately working together, and the good news is that even before then, downtown Miami is heavily prominent and featured in everything we do. We love all, we serve all. We're like Benetton, and I know people historically talk about South Beach and Miami Beach, and they truly are critically important to our overall industry. But thanks to the efforts of the DDA and a lot of its committee members, and of course the entrepreneurs, downtown Miami is equally exciting in a different way. So we're ecstatic that we as marketers have more great destinations within a great destinations like downtown Miami, the beach, Wynwood, obviously points further afield. So that's the groundwork, and that's been in place for several years now. This is not something new. Downtown Miami is a big part of what we're doing, and of course all the hotels within that, hotels, museums, etc. In terms of our response strategy, we've, for better or for worse, we've gone through this many times. I've been here since 9/11, oil spills, Zika, multiple hurricanes, And so although this is different, at least we can draw upon some of those experiences. And we're baking that into our response strategy, which is similar to yours. Number one, it's about educating our partners, and our guests and our meeting planners. It's about mitigating the blunt to whatever extent possible during this pre-recovery phase. And then it's about stimulating business demand as quickly as possible, especially to get guests back into our hotels and our restaurants, and of course our museums and so forth. But I really want to emphasize the hotel.
Can I just one point maybe?
Sure.
I appreciate the strategies and the thoughts, but like, I guess, and I don't want to speak for my fellow members of the committee, but personally, I want to know, like, is there a to-do list? Like, at this day, when the county does this, what concrete things is your organization going to put into effect day one? Like, what are you going to do? Like, how are, like, Miami Spice, I heard something about? Is there something?
I'm getting there, Richard. I'm getting there. So just bear with me. I promise. I'll make it quick. So we've launched a series of pre-recovery programs, and you've alluded to one of them. Miami Eats is what we currently have in place, and we've got about close to 1,200 restaurants that are participating with us on that. We've also launched Virtual Miami, which obviously includes a lot of downtown Miami experiences. So we have a variety of things that are available through our web portal. But what we're building on a broader basis is what I'm calling our recovery plan, which is our stimulate part of our three-pronged approach. We've had this in place, for prior crises. We're building it as we speak, and it will be triggered. And I know I saw the dates. It will be triggered once the dates, the official opening dates, are announced, and then work backwards from that. Because what we're going to do with our campaign, which has both a local, regional, statewide, and a national outreach, and of course it's going to be advertising, PR, sales, all of the things you would expect us to do. But we're going to start local and regional because we truly feel that one way to fill hotels as quickly as possible is by leveraging people in our own backyard, as we've done in past crises. And yes, part of that is not just great hotel deals, Richard, but it will include, reactivating some of our great value programs like Miami Spice, like Monmouth at the right time, because some of these touch points are more sensitive than others. And we do know that when hotels or restaurants or other experiences reopen, it's going to be done on a phased-in approach, as Ivory alluded to, with certain occupancies in place. So we have, and this is going to be quite a significant investment that we've accounted for in our restructuring, because we've had to make some adjustments as an organization that is primarily funded by tourist taxes, which for the most part have been paused. But we've accounted for that, and we've made some adjustments, and we'll be able to launch a very comprehensive business recovery program once those dates are in place, and then we'll work backwards. So I'll pause that, and I can go into much more detail at you or anybody else's discretion.
I can just throw out one question, then I'll throw it out to my other committee members. Is I think for us to interface and to augment things that you are doing, in my opinion, it'd be most helpful if we all agreed or thought of, okay, Mayor Jimenez comes out in a week and says, all right, we need 25% distancing, and we need face coverings, and we need this. That's phase one. Phase two is 50%. Phase three is this. At what each of those points, what concrete things are you doing so that we can see that and add to it or not do it, so we don't do the same things, or if we're doing things, there's synergy between us and we're pooling resources, but we have a common plan. See what I mean? And I know you all done great jobs, and I know you've done a great job, and you've done a lot of great things, but from my perspective, and putting together a concrete plan to respond, I'd like to see what you are doing at each of those phases so that we can compare it to what we think we ought to be doing at DDA. But do I have any other, do you want to respond to that, or throw it out to questions of my other committee members?
Yeah, I'll just mention one of the programs that we partner on with the GMCVB every year is the Hotel Co-op, which many of you may remember. We have allocated $50,000 to that program hotels also pitch in funds. And what it is a marketing campaign that is pushed on social and drives business to the hotels through the summer months that are slow. And so in the budget, we're keeping that number there, but it's a good point what Richard's making. Like, are there other areas that we should be holding moving forward into our...
I'd like to see at what point, what phase are you going to implement and execute that plan? Like, I think we want to see that plan. I want to know, is that at 25% capacity, or is that at 50% capacity?
Richard, we're going to launch our plan from day one. We're not going to wait for the staggered, because the reality is that the availability of inventory, and again, I'm referencing hotels in particular, because that's our top priority. If I get people back into hotels, I turn back on all the relevant taxes, from sales taxes to tourist taxes, which benefit us all.
So that would be 25% then, right? So that would be a phase one plan to implement right after Carlos Jimenez says, all right, we're going to go to 25% capacity, and we're going to go to, if you look at phase one, it's allows non-essential businesses to open at 25 capacity. So Carlos Jimenez comes out tomorrow and says, hey, we're going to phase one. Is it your intention to implement this plan the day of?
Absolutely. Guns a-blazing. I've got 59,000 hotel rooms to fill. And if I got 25% occupancy, I've got 23,000 rooms to fill. So we're going to come out guns a-blazing.
What can we do to help that? Because, right?
Well, the good news, Richard, is that there's a great, there's great history here. So our teams work perhaps even more intimately than you're aware of, and through Kim and Christina and Josie Yotto, who's our VP of Advertising and Digital Marketing, has been developing co-op programs with the DDA for many years. I've been personally involved. I'm both the Chief Operating Officer and the Chief Marketing Officer. Don't ask me which one is funner right now. But, you have our personal commitment. Obviously, Bill Talbot is our CEO. We will be more than glad to share with you and through staff, because I think that's the appropriate channel. Our plan, I think, Kim has seen it. Christina, I walked them through it. I think it was about 2 weeks ago. It has evolved since then. We are developing this platform called Miami Shines, which we feel is a platform that is flexible enough for our partners like yourselves and others to build upon. In fact, we're having discussions with the Beacon Council, because they feel that they could also use it in a broader business economic development perspective. So all the assets that we're building, whether it's for the Miami Shines campaign, whether it's for the Miami Eats campaign, all these assets will be available to all our partners, because we've already covered the sunken costs to make it easy for you guys to leverage.
May I ask a question? Have you focused on any of the big events that are still on the books? I just happened to get off an Orange Bowl committee board meeting. That's why I was late for this meeting. And, there's still a lot of talk about the college football playoff, which is scheduled here in early January. I know that they were going to do an ask for the Miami DDA. It hasn't been presented to you for some sponsorship, but that college football playoff has 4 hotels that they've booked downtown. One is for one of the teams, one is for the media, and both bands are staying in the Miami DDA district. So, I mean, if that's an event still happening, right now it's still in the books. The CFP representatives are going to be here in June. We need to figure out how to work with them to encourage them to make sure that they hold their event, because I forget how many thousands and thousands of hotel rooms that's going to bring just to the GDA area, but never mind, greater Miami. Yeah. And that comes on the heels 2 weeks after the Orange Bowl game, where one of the teams is supposed to stay at the Intercontinental.
Yeah, we are a significant investor in that game, and Eric Palms and this organization obviously has been working closely for quite some time, and there's a lot of planning. And I was at their board meeting right before we couldn't meet in person about 2 months ago, and through our sports division, we're at that table. That I will suggest to you that there's an even bigger event happening a lot sooner, and it's an event that is using 50 hotels, including many in downtown Miami. So when people think about big events, yes, we think Super Bowl, we think college football championships, and these are immensely important, because it's less about the hotel rooms that they're booking, but it's about the media impressions that they're casting throughout the world. events that
agreed.
generate by far more hotel room nights and more people walking down downtown streets, patronizing downtown restaurants are conventions. So I've got 2 medical conventions that I'm trying to save for September, 2nd and 3rd week. I have 15,000 thoracic surgeons, and I've got another 10,000 neuroscientists, and we're meeting and talking to them on a weekly basis. They're actually very bullish about bringing the convention still to Miami in September, obviously with some sort of restrictions and limitations. But 2020 was going to be a gangbuster year of meetings and conventions. So forget about the Super Bowl that happened in February, awesome. And even forget about it for a moment, CFP in 2021. We have, B2B trade shows, conventions that were happening throughout the spring, the summer, and now the fall. So, the Bureau is hyper keen on maintaining, to whatever extent possible, those meetings and conventions, but concurrently working with the Orange Bowl on these bigger mega events. But there's a lot of business that is still on the books that we're trying to preserve as much as possible for the latter part of the summer and into the fall.
Yeah, but if we don't get the city open soon, those conventions there's no way that those conventions are coming. So
100%. So
I think you're looking at 4th quarter before you see any big events, if that.
Right. On that note, I'd like to make one quick comment. Rolando, thank you for that. This is Tad, and we look forward to working with you and your group on a continuing basis. I want to just play devil's advocate really quick, and to speak to some of Richard's points. I do think we need some actionable items in the form of a 10-point plan. I think, and we've put thoughts together, which we're going to share with the committee after this call. But I think before we start talking about driving people back to Miami and taking advantage of this tourism destination that we've all created, I think it would be prudent for both the GMCVB, the DDA, and a number of these other agencies to focus on one message, that safety is priority number 1. No one is going to travel to a hotel, and no one is going to travel to Miami if they don't feel safe. No one is going to come to downtown, whether we're marketing to the world or we're marketing to Broward County, if they don't think downtown streets and hotels and restaurants are safe and clean. The first priority we have to implement is ensuring, and this goes through messaging, and this goes through PR, and this goes through, PSAs and whatnot, ensuring that the public is aware that downtown restaurants, downtown retail, downtown hotels are doing everything they can from a protocol standpoint to ensure the safety of our visitors and their customers and our residents, period. That goes to quality of life, and that goes to business. If we don't get that right, we are going to see a downturn of cataclysmic proportions. And I don't want to sound like the Grim Reaper, but come September and come October, if we have another setback, what we're experiencing right now in terms of 30 million people being unemployed could easily be 50 million. It could be that bad. So
all right, Ted, we get it.
I just want to say,
Yeah.
I
Okay.
think it's very
I have
important for
to
our
jump
campaign.
off, and Ted, I love you, and I'm going to leave you guys with one thought: give me liberty or give me death. So we have to move on with life, and yes, we want to be prudent and we want to be careful, but give me liberty or give me death. I'll circle back with you guys. Thank you very much for this opportunity, and unfortunately, I have to jump on another call. Bye.
And Tad, I'm going to drop off at 2 o'clock as well, but I did want to say that to your point, and I know I didn't get a chance to say everything that we're working on concurrently. So yes, on one hand, we're working on the sales and marketing, the PR, and that plays obviously to the emotional side. On the practical side, and especially for event planners and meeting planners, of which we're in constant contact, we're working collectively on what we're positioning as a destination-wide pledge. We're at every touch point, literally speaking, from the moment the planes land, well, the moment you get on the planes, the moment you land at MIA, to the moment you get in a cab or an Uber or Lyft, to the moment you get into our convention center and into our hotels and restaurants, what are all these segments doing to ensure that they are minimizing or mitigating this possible contagion? And we're actually on a variety of task forces, like many of you, and gathering that information, because that's what meeting planners, especially meeting planners, consumers at large and vacationers, as you all know, are a little bit less risk averse, but meeting planners or event planners are making decisions for thousands of people. And they are a very practical minded set. So those are the ones, that's our, I guess, our least or greatest common denominator that we need to satisfy those meeting planners from our perspective. Now, there's a broader one, but we're working on this destination-wide pledge. We did a version of that after Zika, but we're dramatically expanding that to present that to meeting planners to give them whatever confidence level they need to make those decisions. So thank you.
And it's Richard. Is there a way to get, I mean, until I see, or I think this committee sees some concrete sort of program, and when those programs are going to, at what phase they're going to be implemented, I don't understand how I mean, I guess in a vague general sense, we can, work together, but, how do we bring value to what you're doing and you bring value to what we're doing if we don't know exactly what we're doing at what phase?
So I want to just point to the next slide that talks about these different buckets that all tie together in this conversation, and kind of our thoughts, staff thoughts around what we could be doing to assist during this time. And I don't have to run through every little detail, but I mean, Richard, we kind of went through this. We had a 2-hour prep call with Richard, which was great, gave us great feedback. So based on that conversation, the staff's recommendations, these are kind of our buckets, so to speak, because I'm looking at this, we're about to hit budget preparation time, right? And so we need to come up with whatever we're going to need in the budget moving forward to be able to assist during this time. And you talk about cleanliness, and thank you, Tad. That's one of the, we all agree that that's important. And so one of the things, just to put it out there, is through the Pit Stop Expansion Program, the board approved us to allocate funding towards a janitorial services contract to reduce our costs and to make sure we had redundancy for those bathrooms being clean. I want to take it a step further because I'm seeing what's happening at the city and the reduction in their budget, 20%. That's hitting solid waste, police, all across the board. So I have a sense that the city is going to come to us to do more of these city-related tasks, and it's going to be the board's call on whether we allocate funding towards something like a sanitation contract, like what they're doing in Atlanta, and cleaning storefronts and being that in that space where we use the debt team, but the debt team's not going to be able to do cleaning to that nature, and be able to educate businesses. All of that, we can do that. That's not hard because that's all part of our communication strategy. But I think tangible things like, do we contract with a sanitation company? Do we get in that space? Do we expand our ambassador team to include more ambassadors to help police social distancing in front of businesses at the parks? Those types of things are I think what this committee can recommend to the board through the finance committee and the process that we're about to undergo for the budget. So I just wanted to bring those up as tangible things that we can decide now, moving forward based on whenever the city decides to open, then we at least have that in place. And safety is the #1 priority. All the other things that, that we normally do, like marketing downtown, creating events, and making sure that we're showcasing the city so people want to come here are important. But we also need those guidelines for social distancing. What does that mean? And so I'm happy to hear that the GMCDP is having those conversations with folks that are planning large events and conferences, because it's going to help inform the city on what needs to be done and what's our role in that. Is it that we're going to have an ambassador team? Let's just make an example at Bayfront Park. If there's a concert, making sure people aren't together. And so I just wanted to throw that out there. These are kind of the buckets that we've discussed internally with some recommendations. And so I'll open it up. We can either go through it all or not, but I just wanted to point everybody to this next slide.
Christina, the Greater Miami and the Beaches Hotel Association has kind of come up with a program and things to do for hotels, and it has to do with safety of employees and safety of guests, and they've developed a lot of different strategies. I have some notes from my last meeting and suggestions about things to do, and I'll circulate them to you. You can circulate them to everyone on the committee. But it's some really thoughtful things about retraining employees and temperature check, and everything from not cleaning guest rooms every night, and removing lobby furniture, and anything that has a couch, anything where people can sit close to each other as opposed to sitting in a chair, removing non-essential items from hotel rooms, going back to one-use plastic items so they can be disposed of and they don't have to be touched and washed. So they've come up with a lot of great ideas, and I think we can help market that, and other businesses can pick up on a lot of those ideas as well.
Yeah, and I remember, or I was on a call with Wendy. Rolando was on, I think he had to drop off with the city staff early on into this about needing those recommendations. So I guess we need to connect the dots and make sure that they have another meeting with the city on all of this, because it sounds like there's more concrete next steps that should be shared with the city as well. So thank you for that. I appreciate that.
Yeah, I'll get it.
Okay. So just to go back to the priorities, so, safety was the third bullet, but the examples I just mentioned, but going up on business retention, making sure that the sidewalks are being utilized, so the cafes and the expansion that we're talking about, encouraging reservations to make sure that, restaurants are prepared for the crowd, and then obviously the ambassadors to help kind of but manage that whole social distancing that we know we're probably going to be in for the next year, right? And then we talked about reporting. I think that's important. I think we're all there. But also, making sure that we're maintaining communication with businesses. And we've been doing our Friday forums virtually, which we'll continue to do. We're getting a great response. The one-on-one calls that the task force has been doing has been helpful. The staff at other levels are also making those calls. So I think we need to continue in that space as well. And then eventually, talking about a sense of place for downtown, and when events revamp up, talking about bike races and the marathons that we would normally sponsor, and concerts of the sort, and how to make sure that those still happen, but with the phases still kind of up in the air. That's kind of on the long term. But then also social media presence, like the David Guetta thing, and all of that. Positive marketing that we got, all of that, and maybe doing something next is another thing I wanted to mention. Richard was really excited. I think you mentioned at the board meeting about we need to do another one of these events. And so we're in talks with some big name artists about doing another one of those events. I wouldn't want to do it at another condo because of the issues that were raised, but we're looking at some creative ways, either partnering with the American Airlines Arena, doing something inside that then could be streamed virtually, but then also making sure that we're getting those visuals of the city to sell Miami. So that's another real tangible next step that we could work towards. Talking, to Richard's point of what can we actually do now? And then if you flip to the next slide, Ivory. Thank you. So working on those permitting barriers, I was in discussions with the city manager's office also about expediting permits and making sure that everything from office space might change, right? People might need less space. They may need to reduce space, or businesses may want to move to Miami for all the different reasons that we've already discussed. So making sure that the city is expediting permits, not holding things up, which has been a priority for this board for over a year now. And they're open to all of that and wanting to push that forward as well. So that's another real tangible, I think, item that we need to focus on over the next 3 to 6 months. And then just continue collaboration with our partners around that. And Rolando alluded to all the discussions that we're having with them. And then keeping Miami on the top mind of our domestic feeder market. And also, do we need to be doing, it's a question. Do we need to be marketing and doing business development efforts in New York and Chicago like we were doing in the past? It's a question. Also, redeploying the existing real estate industry media and our collateral that we've been doing in downtown. All of that will change based on this whole new world. So making sure that we're allocating funding to do things differently and to market downtown differently. And then finally, improving the mobility experience within downtown that we've talked about already with the taking over of the roads, closing them to cars. Those discussions are happening at the city level as well. And hopefully by May 15th, executive committee, we could have a good update on those efforts. The staff knows that it's a priority and they're working really hard to bring recommendations forward. And then lighting has always been an issue. We're still tracking that. I'll be sharing Jennifer's enhanced services report that shows the different things we've been following up as far as improving the streets and public spaces and making sure that everything's lit and safe moving forward. But those are kind of the priorities that we've discussed, and really just wanted to open it up to see if there's any other ideas. I know Tad shared that he had some recommendations that he's going to share with us as well. But I'll stop talking now, and that's kind of what we've been discussing over the last week.
The committee members? Any of the committee members? All right. So I think we've gone through it then. So I have no questions or comments from the committee members. Just want to make sure that's correct, and we'll go back to Christina with something.
Well, I would have one question. We discussed last time you guys made a presentation, you showed some disinfecting photos of different with teams fogging downtowns. Have we looked at what that might be like for downtown Miami?
Yeah, thanks, Gary. So that's what I was alluding to about sanitation. We're looking at different options and contracts that, like for instance, I mentioned Atlanta has. And so we're reaching out. Jennifer's doing that research now.
Right.
So in time for Finance Committee next week, May 12th, I would encourage everybody on the board to be part of those discussions, because I think we really need to create line item expenditure numbers. And in order to do that, we need those baseline numbers from other places. So we don't have a contract like that in place. And I don't think the city is gonna be able to do it to the level that we may need it in downtown. So I just want to be ready and have that open discussion. So yeah, we're looking at those numbers.
Yeah, and Richard, as far as I'm concerned, I want to look at this. I want to compare what the Hotel Association did, and then I'll come back with some thoughts and I'll circulate them through Christina. Because look, I'm somewhere in between Alicia and Tad, right? I think we need to open, we really do, but we got to do it safely, because opening and closing again really is not that productive. But I'm definitely leaning on the opening side of the world, but you know, we definitely have to do it in a safe way to make people feel comfortable. So part of our marketing plan has to be about the safe features that we've added and whatnot. And we can't be, you know, showing pictures of South Point Park and Black Point Marina and, you know, people doing stupid things. So, and we can't have another spring break situation. So,
yeah, I totally agree with you, and thank you for your thoughts. I think you're correct. Regarding the opening and closing, I think we need to have that in our minds when we put together our plans for how to help usher back Miami into, you know, a post-virus era. Is because, you know, at the end of the day, there's not enough testing. So the way we're all doing it, see how many people show up at the emergency room, okay? And until testing is ramped up, maybe by the end of the month, or maybe that's in 3 months, they're not going to be able to track it appropriately. So the only way we're really going to find out is when people are showing up at the emergency room, in which case you're already 3-4 months into exponential growth. I think that's the future. I get we're opening up, and I certainly understand Alicia's thoughts. I do. But I also understand we have to be safe. I would, if we are in a phase 1, 2, and 3, we have the Hotel Bureau, we have a couple of the other organizations out there, and if some way I think we can bring value. We have a budget too that we can participate with. Is if we go and I get everybody likes to talk about the ends. You know, we want to have lighting, we want to have safe streets, we want to have, but you know, as a business, private sector person, I need to see the means. How are we getting to the ends? Okay, what is the to-do list, and how can I look at what you're doing and say, wow, that's pretty cool. Why don't we help out? Why don't we do that in conjunction with Christina's idea to have another David Guetta thing, and then our timing will be more beneficial to you. And then can we do that in a way that's safe? Because I don't really want to be the person with fingerprints on a public event that's not safe. Now, I know the hospitals are all coming out with new things. They have bracelets. And Christina, you know, I'll just tell you this too. If you have a big event and it's everybody's socially distanced, and maybe we give, you know, those cheap medical masks that everybody wears out to get in, and they have bracelets now that if you get within 6 or 8 feet of somebody, they go off. So there's a phase 1, 2, 3, and I just feel like if rather than wait for government to, you know, hit the starter's gun, when they hit the starter's gun, we shouldn't all start for the first time trying to think of how we're all going to coordinate. I'm saying let's do it now.
Yeah, no, Richard, I totally agree. And like, just like we try and help small businesses with their, you know, permits and getting open and stuff. I mean, we don't have to say this is how you do it, but here are things that other businesses are doing. which of these menu list of items can you implement at your business for relatively low cost? Everyone can take the temperature of their employees. It's not that hard, right? Everyone can give masks. What else can you do? You know, someone was talking about propping open doors so so people don't have to touch the door. Okay, that's kind of unheard of in Miami, but you know what? On a public business, you know how many people touch the door?
Yeah,
right?
Right.
We actually found these door openers, I would say. I don't know what the right term is, but they're like these keychain looking things that we've costed out to purchase for folks as well. Like if, you know, if the cost makes sense for us, where you don't touch the door, you use this device to open the door. So
you should talk to property owners about what kind of damage those things can cause.
Yeah, well, that was the other side of it. Yeah.
Start handing them out.
But I mean, it's just like people.
But just
some people
ideas
are
like that.
Some people can think. Some people are very creative. So, you know, let's share some of these ideas, and maybe other businesses can implement them.
Hey, and Suzanne,
Great point.
Suzanne,
Go
ahead.
Go ahead. I'm sorry, I'm interrupting.
I was just going to say one thing really quick. You know, I heard Suzanne say this, and I agree to a certain extent. We need to open. We need to open in phases, and we need to stress safety, because the only way we can really assess the damage to all of our sectors in downtown is to understand who's coming here, who's going to the hotels, who's actually frequenting the businesses and the retail, and then we can start using data to market around that. But that's phase 2 and 3. What I'd like to suggest to Richard, and we can, you know, once Christina approves this, we've gone ahead and put together a pretty detailed plan in phases that, you know, we can work into a 10, 12, 15-point plan that's very action-oriented. Once Christina approves it, we'd like to share it with you, review it, and then we can use it as thought starters to begin to move forward.
But why don't you give it to staff and let staff incorporate the parts that it wants into what it gives us, and we'll have one comprehensive idea. So I have nothing against you coordinating with staff, but I want one document from staff. I don't want, you know, multiple competing documents.
Got it.
But Christina, I guess, you know, and let me speak for the committee people, and you all tell me if you agree, but to sort of bring this thing up, to move this thing along, I think I would direct staff, if the committee, if I have the support of my committee members, I would direct staff to put together the phased plans of what the means to the ends are. I don't want to hear, I get strategies, it all sounds good, but that's all stuff I can't measure. I want a task list. I want a to-do list. And I want it so that, in my opinion, when Jimenez says this and Francis Suarez says, okay, we're at phase 1, what are we going to do? And how could we responsibly promote a phase 1 soft opening, and what can we do? I like Christina, you had some great ideas, but let's get on a piece of paper. Let's share it with the other couple organizations we're working in conjunction with. Let's get them to do it. And then when the starting pistol goes boom, we've already executed. We're not all coordinating. We're not talking about strategy anymore. We're talking about execution.
Yep, we can definitely take, you know, this was a first start at crafting kind of ideas, but what we can do is take this a step further and plug it into those phases that you described and share it with the committee. You know, incorporating Suzanne's points with the hotel association or wherever it makes sense. I don't know how they broke it up, whether the big question, which I mean kind of got answered was for us, Richard, and you asked the other day, does the phase approach opening, those 25%, 50% thresholds apply to hotels? Are they going to allow them to open up in phases? Because that's something I haven't been able.
No, they'll allow them to open. It's just they have to modify all their common area spaces, their food and beverage spaces, their meetings. They have to figure out a whole new way of having a meeting, right? I mean, they have to facilitate that. I mean, look, the first guests that are going to come back are transient. Right? So they're going to be families or people who want to escape their families because they've been locked up for so long. So, but it's the transient, it's that summer vacation, it's drivable, that's what everyone's envisioning, right? So Florida's great because there are a lot of places you can drive,
Right.
Okay.
But they're not going to
And
open a
outdoor
hotel at
activities.
25% capacity, right? They're just going to open it. And that's
They're just
Yeah.
gonna open. Trust me, they
Yeah.
would be jumping for joy if they were at 25% occupancy.
Yeah, I mean,
I mean, the hotels that are open right now in the United States are somewhere between 10 and 15% occupancy. It's
Right.
brutal. And that's with 80% of the hotels in America closed.
right.
I mean, but they're rethinking everything and in some very, very clever ways. And like a lot of these things can be used by other businesses. That's my point. Like, you know what, we'll have to go back to plastic or maybe cardboard or whatever, but like disposable plates, you know, we're just not going to be washing them as much. We're going to do, you know, different things. It's a temporary fix. But, you know, there's things that we can do. They're going to wait for a person to check out for 24 hours before they go and clean their guest room. Right? They're going to have guests bag their own sheets and towels. And then they're going to hand them clean sheets and towels and have the guests make the bed. I mean, sure, that's not luxury, but you know what? I can make a bed. I can do it. You know what I mean? So it's like, everyone's got to do their part. You know, limited people in the airport, you know, spacing out the floor, the tapes on the floor. I mean, I think everyone's got the tape on the floor down, but there's a lot of things like our businesses downtown can just incorporate, things that you just don't think of. Like interior doors, if you prop an interior door open, right, it doesn't hurt your air conditioning. It's probably not a security issue, you know, like, but who in Miami ever thinks to keep a door propped open?
Right.
We just don't think about these things. Some of these things are inexpensive and some of these things are expensive. You know, other cleaning ones, cleaning the air filters, having these UV things and cleaning with UV light and a whole host of different things, you know? And some of these things that any old business can incorporate.
whatever you could share, Suzanne, would be awesome.
Yeah, please.
Yeah, let me I have some notes from a couple meetings I attended and stuff, and let me try and gather my thoughts. I'll promise to circulate it by this weekend. I'm just kind of crazed today and tomorrow.
Yeah.
But
it's
like
helpful.
they're really novel ideas, and I didn't come up with them, but
Maybe we put together a list. Suzanne makes very good points. Maybe we put together a flyer of or two flyers of all of the steps, and we leaflet all of the business owners in the city of Miami. So we all put them on notice of things that they can do internally. And we do that now before we start doing the 25%, 50% reopen, so that they can have time to implement and digest the thoughts that ways that they have to change their business.
Best practices.
yeah, like
Right.
I don't want to call it best practices, but here are some ideas. Have you thought of this for your business? Right? Will this help you, you know, open for business? Something like that. We don't want to represent, I'm a lawyer, can't help myself. We don't want to represent that this works, right? Because then we'll get sued. So we got to stay out of that. But here are some ideas. Like we all see the plastic shields now at Publix, if you do it, you know, at Publix. You know, so I don't know. I think there's a whole bunch of different things. And I think if you get a bunch of business owners together, I know the Hotel Association is far out in front of this. It's the hotel owners, because they're really focusing on opening. But just, I would have never thought to change the lobby furniture. They're also moving furniture around and like only having hard furniture with hard surfaces that can be wiped down, like leathers and vinyls and those sorts of things, as opposed to cloth. You know, things that can be easily cleaned and cleaned between people, cleaned at night. I mean, just there's so many different things you can do.
Well, maybe we should put a list of thoughts together and with all the appropriate disclaimers. I'm a big one for disclaimers. And we put it out to our constituent and get them now thinking of where they would have to be on a phase one reopen. That'll probably help them get to be compliant with the requirements of a phase one reopen if we give it to them now.
Yeah, and I think we should talk to some businesses that remained open. Like I remember on one of my calls, a gentleman who was the GM of the Hilton at the airport. I mean, he was all the things he's doing to protect his employees and help guests, because he's still open at the airport. He's still open. He's, you know, house manager. So, you know, he's living it. So, you know, go interview him. Let's talk to him. Let's talk to some people that are open and how have they changed? What has worked? What hasn't worked? What, you know, let's learn from other people.
Yeah, I agree. Christina, is that something you feel comfortable executing on? I mean, I don't know why we don't start doing that right now.
Yeah,
Sounds like the association already has a bunch of great ideas.
Yeah,
one stop, you know, a cheat sheet sort of format. Get a nice big disclaimer. and we get it out to the business community.
Absolutely. And we have started that, but this is very specific. And I love, Suzanne, if you share whenever you have a chance, we'll incorporate that. We can start creating that collateral and push it through social and hand deliver it to, businesses that are open already. We've been sharing like cleanliness best practices, but this is getting even more specific. So I think that this is great when we put that together.
Folks too. I don't want to be opposite of what code compliance says.
Right. That was I was just actually texting Kim, who's on the call. He was like, get ready to create some more specific collateral, but checking with the city to make sure that we're all on the same page and we're not putting something out there that's not, going to be sufficient for them and vice versa. So just making sure that we're all on the same, we all have the same messaging.
Okay. And I apologize, but I got to jump to another conference call. But Christine, I'll circle back with you.
Okay. Sounds good. Thank you.
Great. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, Susan. Do we have a lot more, Christine?
No, that was it. It was just basically just to give this kind of like framework. But this was good direction. I think we can work from here. And then just to make sure that the board members that are on the call and anybody that wants to participate, we're having our finance committee May 12th. And I think a lot of this will get weaved into that discussion too. So you just may want to participate on that.
I would set aside some money. If we get the finance committee, I think we ought to start thinking about how much money we have to spend. All the great ideas in the world don't do us any good if we don't have the money for it.
Exactly.
Does the committee members have any questions or comments? All right.
And I'd just like to add that we did not receive any other comments or questions via chat except there's one on Facebook. Hold on one second. Let me find it. I spoke too soon. Okay, from Evelio Medina, we have number 1, contact tracing, testing for antibodies, isolation when needed. Either we open up or we don't. It's impossible to operate at 25%.
Yeah, I don't think I don't disagree with it. I just think operating at 25% is sort of a soft opening, but I couldn't operate at 25%. But point well taken.
And I think that's it.
All right. Thanks,
It's a wrap.
everybody.
Thank
Good day.
you. Thank you, everybody.
Bye, everybody.
Bye. Thanks.
Thank you.
What happened? Oh. Was that the wrong question?